All right, so we've got a name range in there. Pretty slick. So rather than referencing the range of cells by the cell address, we gave it a name, and we can now use that inside of formulas. Now, what are some of the advantages of doing this over the standard column row reference, and what are some of the disadvantages of using this method here? So first off, what are some advantages? Why am I showing this to you here? Well, one of them is by giving it a range or even a single cell a name, we're offering some more context. We're giving it a definition. It's not just B5 through B9, but this is week 1. Somebody looks at a formula, they see week 1, we can know that, oh, this is referencing week 1 data, not some abstract column row reference. Now, another advantage is not only can we use this inside of formulas, and especially great inside of large sets of data, we're going to be taking a look at the VLOOKUP and HLOOKUP functions very shortly in just a few videos from here, and this will become huge. We can use this to name a whole table of data, and then we can use that inside of the formula. So, pretty big advantage. Another one is we can actually use this to help us navigate to data. Take a look. If I'm off someplace else, even in a different, completely different worksheet, maybe I'm down here on the VLOOKUP worksheet, I can go back to the name box, remember top left corner of your screen, I can hit the little down arrow, and what do you got? Week 1. If I give that a click, it'll take me right there, right to that data. So I'm looking for something, maybe it's perhaps data that you work with quite a bit. I need to navigate to it, name it, go to the name box, there, you're done. You've navigated to that data. It's also great, once you've navigated to it, it's actually highlighted that data. If I now go to File, Print, I can change what I'm printing from Active Sheet to Print Selection. And then I'll just print that data. That's something small, but utilizing the name ranges, if it's a common area that you interface with, give it a name, you can navigate to it, and you can quickly print that selected area. Pretty slick. Now, there's some pretty big advantages there, and especially that we can then utilize that name inside of formulas like we did with the sum. Now, what's a disadvantage to this? Well, earlier on in the course, we talked about different types of references. We talked about relative references, such as B5, right? Right here, this cell right here, B5, if I just reference that, equals B5, that right there is a relative reference. Now, the benefit to that relative reference that we talked about earlier was that I can then copy this formula to other columns or other rows, and it would update based on the new position, a relative reference. What was the other type? We talked about relative, and we had absolute. Now, an absolute would look something like this. You'd have the dollar signs in there. $B, $5. Now, the nice thing here is if I copied this formula, this reference, that B5 would stay the same. Always the same. It would never change from reference cell B5. Now, a name range is essentially an absolute reference. Okay? So, which is great if used properly. But in this case, I need to get the sales for week 2, week 3, week 4, and the total. Well, remember our first formula, if I give that a double click, is referencing a name range. This is essentially an absolute value. So, if I grab that little box and drag it over, it's just going to perform the same action. It's always summing week 1. Give these a double click. It's always week 1. Okay, so something to be aware of. We can consider that a disadvantage, especially with this setup of data, because I just want to create the formula once and then copy it over, right? Reuse that. So keep that in mind. Got some pretty big advantages to utilizing this. Naming a range, giving it context, using that name rather than a cell reference inside of a formula, pretty cool. But if it's something that you plan on copying, such as this right here, perhaps it's not the best bet. You'd want to roll back into utilizing the traditional column and row references within your formulas. Now, you can try this out. Try the navigating, try the print selection. take a look at how you copy it, and it's just going to repeat week 1 over and over again. You got some advantages, disadvantages. Try it out, just get a feel for it. The next lecture, we're going to switch gears a little bit, but I want you to keep name ranges in your mind because we're going to use them, but we're going to learn about a new function called the if function, and we'll see how we can use it there. So first off, make sure you got a good grasp on name ranges, how you create them, where you can go to utilize them, whether it's an advantage or disadvantage, and then we'll take a look at some other options here. So take a look at name ranges.